It's tradition to start from the beginning, but the end was hard. Let's start there. Mm, yeah. Mm, yeah. Boy, you know you make me float, 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 float. On August 25th this year, made 20 years since we had Aaliyah. And there's one thing that's for certain. Her fans miss her. And I'm sure her family and her friends miss her dearly. But there's been a public outcry by the fans. R. Smelly's trial, yes, I said it. R. Smelly's trial, it really opened up a ugly chapter and revealed some things that just made us just empathize and understand just how much pain that he has caused, not only people that we did not know, but people that we were familiar with, that we seen. And one of them would be Aaliyah. And this whole trial did not help answer any questions. It only made more questions, more conspiracy, and more mystery. And I decided, rather than just assuming for myself what could have happened and transpired, I wanted to use my spirit guides and do a reading on the subject matter. But I wanted to do it in a tasteful and respectful manner because she has so many people that love her. And I wanted to be as sure and as certain with what I released. And I knew I just couldn't do it in one video. And I wanted to do it in parts. But I wanted to start with the hardest part. I want to start with her death. I wanted to get into the energy and the mind frame that Aaliyah and her entourage of people, what were they in? What kind of frame of mind, what kind of mood were they in the last 24 hours that they were here with us? So upon right before leaving, booking the flight, they were idle for most of the night before, and during the day it was pretty much relaxed. They had a few imaging, a few shots that they were going over, and at this particular point, Aaliyah felt like there was no more that she needed to give. There was enough footage, there was enough content to make a really good video. On the night of the 24th, she decided that, the following day she would leave. There was a lot of content for the video, in her opinion. And she did her last, I guess you would say, shots on the actual 25th, the day that she passed, but it was very early in the morning when she did this. So she had the rest of the day where she was not working. So there was a lot of idle time after that. According to the card, she did tell Hype Williams, she did tell the director, look, the night before, so on the 24th, she told him, I'm thinking about leaving tomorrow. And he was like, really? Like, you're not scheduled to leave until the 26th. And she was like, yeah, but don't you, we got enough. And he said, okay, well, before you leave, I just want to take a few extra, like, shots of you doing X, Y, and Z. I don't know what these shots were, but that was his request. And she agreed to it. She was like, all right, cool. And then, we just wrap it up. Now, this is, within the last 24 hours. I want to talk about the 24th because I don't know if, because when people grieve, they sometimes block out things or they don't recall things accurately. Like their main focus is whatever they're grieving about. So things prior to, sometimes it does not gel well with the situation. I don't know why Damon did not reveal that he spoke to her the night before she passed, as well as her being in contact with her uncle, Barry, before the crash as well. There was not necessarily the day of that she was in communication with her uncle, but definitely during the shoot. And I just don't know why they never, through all the interviews, why they never spoke of this, but it's in the cards that they did speak the night before. In fact, she did tell Damon that she was going to leave the following day. So he never said anything like, to my knowledge, he's never said anything about him speaking to her before, the night before. Now, I will say this conversation was not important or like vital in a way that it would be alarming or alerting him. Oh, she said this or she said that, and I should have known. It was nothing in the conversation for him to indicate that she would no longer be here the following day. So the phone call was, it was very, typical, but it was nothing in that conversation. So I will give him that. He was distracted. He was on the phone speaking with her, but he was also watching TV and I'm envisioning maybe a sport. He was watching that, but it was a little minor distraction. And he was listening to her, but, he had his mind on other things, basically like whatever he was watching on TV. And she was tired, and she was just basically calling to notify him that she would be ending, wrapping up this video on the 25th and just, returning home. Kind of like that. Like, one of those calls like, hey, what you doing? Or how was your day? Okay, anyway, I'm coming home. Like, it was very minor. I will give that. But he never mentioned it, which is strange. In fact, there was a recent interview where he said that he was told that Aaliyah was trying to rush home or return back to the States because she had been told that something happened to him, and so she was hurrying back. And, I think that's odd because she spoke to him the night before. But I think his guilt comes in, and I think something that plays in his mind is that she did try to contact him on the 25th, and she was unable to contact him. He didn't answer. And I guess he was busy or whatever. But I think he plays just that knowledge in his mind as, what if I would have just answered? Maybe it's kind of like, if I would have answered, she would have never probably been so much in a rush to get home type of thing. Um, but that wasn't really in her mind. That wasn't something that she was worried about, actually. Now, was this something that he was told? Is he fabricating the story? I think that he was definitely told something that insinuated that she was trying to return home as soon as possible because she heard something had happened to him, like something was maybe an accident or something like that. That wasn't the case. And I will say that confidently, that was not the case. And yeah. So I'm willing to go ahead and die on that hill. That was not the case. There were so many versions of a story and so many things that were said and told, not only to the public, but to her family and her loved ones, which is what motivated me to do this video and also do this reading on the subject. Which now what I would like to discuss is the situation at the airport before the plane took off. Now there is people who say that are that were there, like the people that worked at the airport and the people that were assisting them while on this trip, shall I say. And what they say is that some of them tell different stories. We hear that she walked on the plane, and then recently someone said that she was carried onto the plane. Well, according to the cards, she did have a headache that day, and she did take some pain medicine for that said migraine. And she did take a nap. Those are facts. But there is nothing indicating, even in my intuition or the oracle cards or the tarot cards, that would suggest that she was not conscious and aware when she boarded that plane. And I know it's a lot of speculation and a lot of strong feelings on the subject matter, but I will, I just have to just tell it how it is and how it's presented to me. I understand I have the word of actual witnesses, standing against what I just said. But again, I'm not going to fabricate what is seen simply because someone else says that, they have witnessed something else. Another false story, and I'm kind of nervous saying it because I know that I may receive a lot of backlash because of this, but another statement was that her entourage and the pilot were arguing about the luggage. And he was arguing with them, saying that the plane would be overweight. And this is not an argument that he had with with Aaliyah's team. This is an argument that he had with management. He would say stuff like, and this is intuitively what I received, I'm not finna fly. It's too much, too many people. And I didn't know it was that many people that were supposed to board the flight. Things like that. But he was encouraged and pressured, most likely. I wouldn't say encouraged. He was pressured to still do the flight. Now, this pilot, we got to use air quotation marks on pilot because, as you know, he's a fraud. He would often be very vocal and protest a lot. Okay, like he was known to be objective in general. So, someone who's usually kind of defiant and kind of pissy, if you know what I mean. employers get used to certain employees that behave in that manner, and they just, at the end of the day, you need a job and you're gonna basically do what we ask you to do. So they didn't take his protest or his, what he had to say. They didn't take it as seriously as they should have, honestly. And that is partly the reason why this case, that had, with the family, with them suing, partly why it was pretty much easy, an open and close case, for them to win in this wrongful death lawsuit that they had, because it was, but you understand that to take the word, everyone who was on that flight, they are gone. They are gone. So they were left with hearsay and left with people that were stating they saw something happen that, from what my spirit guides were telling me, in fact, did not happen. And I don't know if it was for them to cover their own tails, or was it like when people face a certain tragedy, they don't know how to process it, and sometimes, like, they don't want to believe that this is like probably the energy. I don't want to believe that I work for, that I participated in the ending of someone's life. So you would want some of that responsibility to be on the people. And another thing is, maybe there was someone who encouraged the story, who repainted the story in some of these people's minds and said, yeah, they were arguing about it. They told them that the flight would be overweight. And the argument that people saw, the disagreement, was more so about service than it was about the weight limit. For one, the flight was late. So they're already antsy. They're already, tired and a little frustrated with that. But nothing too out of the ordinary. Sometimes flights are late. The second was how the entourage was reacting towards them. There was a little, like, they wouldn't even really look at them or talk to them right away at first. So there was a little sign of respect, which, of course, first of all, you had us waiting, and now you're acting like you can't answer any questions. You don't have really even a good reason. So, of course, that would arise a level of frustration and anger. The other part of it was, this is not the plane that we were promised. And not only that, they could see, Aaliyah and her team could see, the plane was small. The plane was small. And they could see with their own two eyes that. So they complained about that. And they also complained about the possibility of having to reschedule a flight that they waited maybe 2 or 3 hours for, past the booking time. So it was late. So what the airport was trying to do, and this is a very small airport, who probably don't receive that much business, they were trying to appease their customers, and they were trying to make right a wrong. And in doing so, they made a grave decision, and just choosing profit over life. They honestly dropped the ball, and they did not think that this would be a fatality. They didn't really. It was, first of all, what I would say is that some of these conversations weren't even face to face. If I'm not mistaken, phone calls were made, and just dealing. I want the audience to picture the frame of mind that Aaliyah and her team had to be in, just witnessing the disorganization, the way that the pilot basically showed up, him not talking directly to them, but, not even greeting them at first, but more so taking a look at them and what they had and just kind of like walking away type of like. With all of that, what kind of frame of mind would you have? You would be a little upset, and so much to the point where you probably like, you know what, give me the money back and we'll just go to another airport. But see, they had a moment where they were feeling instinctively, not all of them, but I would say Aaliyah felt. It was a moment, it was an instinct that maybe I should wait till tomorrow. On the 26th, they would basically fly back to Miami on either the same plane or a plane that was very similar to the plane they took on the way to the Bahamas. And that was how they booked it. So, again, this is a relatively small airport, and they make most of their trips from Miami to the Bahamas. And this is typical for them. Like, it's literally for like private jets, and it's like a charter, so to speak. And how it was booked was for the 26th. And intuitively, a little small voice in her was like, I should probably just wait till tomorrow. Now, with that being said, I want people to not harbor on the thoughts of what could have happened or, oh no, she should have never took that flight. Everything happens for a reason. And when it comes to life and death, unfortunately, no matter how badly we would want it not to be someone's time, it was. There are so many things that could have prevented this tragedy. So many. But who's to say that that day was not the day that she was supposed to earn her wings? And unfortunately, it was a devastating way to go. But there were so many barriers that could have been set in place to prevent this, and it just was not. It was like after the decision to fly, it's just the aspect of flight. Once that entered into the mind of the pilot and it registered with the people who boarded the flight, it set the motion for this to transpire. And I know that it may be hard, and especially for her family, And what would settle them in knowing that that date was her time, none of them were with her. No one was with her, which built so much conspiracy around if it was maliciously intended for her to die on that day. This is part 1 of my Aaliyah series. In other parts, I will discuss the other people in her life that she surrounded herself with, and if any of these people would have wanted something like this to happen to her. But I would like to end this video with this. Aaliyah learned early in her life, due to situations that were devastating for her, she learned to trust her instinct. And on the night of the 25th, that evening, she had an inkling that perhaps she should wait for the 26th to leave. But there was a comforting, rest assured, it was comforting thought that despite what she felt intuitively, in the midst of the arguing, in the midst of the pilot being late, in the midst of all of that went wrong, all of the mishaps, there was a comforting thought that I'll be okay. I'll be okay. And we have to understand that she is very much just fine. And that raw thought, despite her fear, and despite that eerie feeling that maybe I should wait, that raw, instinctive feeling following after that was that she would be okay. And this was a tragedy for her family and for her fans who love her till this day. But in those last words to herself, before boarding that flight, should register in our hearts, she's fine now. And with that being said, rest in peace, Aaliyah. Rest in peace.